Sorry it's a little dark in here. I guess I could have turned on the light. Let me turn on the light. I'll be right back. Might as well. We're up talking. Oh. Nope. Delilah poking her head out. Thank goodness you guys have a green screen. It was cute. You couldn't see her head, but she just poked it out. That was cute. There she is. Here she is. Say hi, everybody. Say hi. I need a bath and I need my ears cleaned. Hey, Mommy, we'll do it tomorrow after church. Hi, guys. I know you guys are probably wondering what in the world am I doing up this time of morning, and I'm wondering the same thing. I don't know. I think it has something to do with me eating too much sugar before the end of the night, and then I'm awake, but I'm addicted to these sons of guns. Hey, Donna. Oh, we got Donna back to back. Ocean. Oh, nice to see you. Mickey Shell. Deanna. True Crime Junkie. Lisa. Good morning. I got like 2 hours of sleep. I can't sleep. I don't know what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong with me. And yesterday, similar thing. Don't just too much. So, I was doing some, work on the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case. I'm doing, if you guys haven't noticed, maybe you guys have, you might want to hit up Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. If you think I'm not covering the Decker sisters and the manhunt for Travis Decker, I am. I'm doing that on my Crime Stories channel. And of course, it's being also ran on my TikTok as well. So if you guys would like to hit TikTok up, I'm covering the case on that as well. And this one, as a matter of fact. I'm happy you're up. Tired. I know! That was another thing. I was trying to decide. I saw other people running the riots. What in the world set California off? Well, it doesn't take much, but I mean, what in the world? I think those text message to that creator are fake. I don't. I don't, and here's why. Because Belinda is on Facebook, and she's been on Facebook, and she's been posting about these kids before, because I went and saw the Facebook page. And somebody was in there. It was a different group for Lilly and Jack. And somebody asked the same question. And the Belinda, the grandmother, wrote in there and said those were her messages. So they have been confirmed by the account, by the person of the account that I know as Grandma. When I got notification, I was like, who will be up at this time? I'm sick of riots as well. Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, first and foremost, like, what set them off? I mean, ICE agents are all over. Listen, I'm sorry. You're not going to get a bleeding heart from Bullhorn Betty. If you're here illegally, you broke the law getting here, okay? I don't want to hear I'm not a criminal, I haven't broken the law. If you are not here illegally and you did not go through the proper chains to get here, then that's breaking our laws. So that already, you broke the law. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to be rude or disrespectful. This is a melting pot. America's a melting pot. I get that. But we also have rules. And I was having this conversation with my best friend today and a couple friends over at her house, and it was, you have a heart, you don't want to do things, but at the end of the day, people came here knowing that what they were doing was wrong, and that if they got caught, they were going back to where they came from. They had the opportunity and knew that there was a proper way to come here, just like many people before them that aren't facing deportation, but they chose not to do it. And they chose to skip the line while people are still standing in line doing it the right way. I'm sorry. There's just rules here. And then to flagrantly think that going in the streets and waving a different country's flag while throwing Molotov cocktails on our streets is a pathway to stay here, you've lost your ever-loving mind. Okay? So whatever's going out in the streets, you know what I say? Round them all up, throw them in jail. If they're not here legally, they made their bed. They could have quietly went under the radar until they got the knock at the door, but they want a war in the middle of our street? Yeah, that ain't happening. That ain't happening. I will defend heathens. I will not. I was about to say I figured that much. That's why I started getting a chuckle out. Exactly. Do you know what time Grandma showed up when the kids went missing? See, I'm on the same thing with you, Lala. I heard the same thing everybody else did. She was there ridiculously soon after finding out or after the children were reported missing. So it's kind of like the whole Kathy Bauer socks, right? Being at Worsham's type of situation. But I'm really looking at this whole case and it's starting to get a little more clear with me. I'm starting to get off the fence. I'm starting to be more, more in line with, there's something going on with the parents that doesn't make sense. It has a lot to do with the grandma. It does have a lot to do with the grandma. The grandma's behavior, learning about the grandma's timing of when she got there. Because we've talked on our channel about the oh shit factor, right? This is when you do something that you didn't mean to do and the damage is done. Oh shit, what have I done? The oh shit factor. Okay, and people do when they're in that, and it's almost like a shock because, typically this plays into effect with, any type of violence, whether you just lost your cool and smacked somebody, you're like, oh shit, it's still the oh shit factor. It still applies no matter what it is. But I really think, maybe she called her mom. Her mom seems a little too cautious in at times when I'm a true crimey, I'm a true crime junkie. I have my shows, obviously I cover true crime. I still, to this day, after all the cases we've covered, if something like this happened, I just don't see myself having those behaviors, even as, skeptical and cautious and side-eye I am. If I was out there and somebody said, here, let me have your phone so I can put your number in it, would I be like, what are you going to do with my phone? And that's me coming from all these years and all these cases. I just don't see myself doing that. And then to hear Grandma doing that tells me Grandma has some knowledge of something, no? Oh, fun size. Hey, love. It's nice to see you. Nah, I couldn't sleep. I was tossing and turning. I think I closed my eyes and got, a couple hours of sleep. And then I went to roll back over to go to sleep. And it was just tossing and turning. And I'm like, this is for the birds. I might as well get some work done. And then as soon as I started going here and rereading these text messages, there's just something not right. We're going to read the text messages. I sent them to the other phone. So we're going to read the text messages. And I'm going to explain why certain things she says to me is odd in these text messages. Now, again, the text messages on and I can tell you what Facebook group it is. Hold on. I can tell you exactly what Facebook group it is. It is the Missing Jack and Lily Sullivan Uncensored Discussion and Update group. They asked, how do we know these texts from Jack and Lily's mother, and it's, I think mother, because it was between the mother and the grandmother, are real? And it was in this group that Belinda said she acknowledged that they were the text messages between her and Malehya. So, yeah, it's been a long year. Finally had my last chemotherapy treatment today. Well, congratulations. It's been a horrible, oh yeah. Well, I haven't, I kind of got disconnected from the E's, so I haven't heard about their son in a little bit. I probably need to reach out and check on them, as a matter of fact. But, um, he wasn't doing well, from my understanding, with the whole chemo thing either, middle E. But I'm so happy for you. I wish I had a button. Now I wish I was in the office where I could push a button. Like, I want to, like, push all the buttons. Like, just make noise. So we'll give you some clappy hands. We'll give you some clappy hands. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're on this side of it. It's ugly. I can tell you that. I've watched it firsthand. It's ugly. So God bless you. Sounds like G-Mom had to clean up another mess. Parents need to allow their children to make mistakes and answer for them. I agree. But see, the crazy part is this is the problem I'm having here. And I think it was Daniel's cousin that was, and I think my opinion is that her perception is based upon probably what she learned, I would assume, from Malehya and or Daniel. Just my assumption. What does it say? My husband came home for the weekend to be here with me. The last treatment made it so much better. Aw, that's so sweet. I love good husbands. Good morning, Faye. And I'm the only one who doesn't believe the stepdad played a part in the kids missing. Well, I was kind of, fun size, I was kind of there where I was starting to bounce back, and I even, if you look back to yesterday, I even had a conversation where I think Daniel's like, I felt like something wasn't right with Daniel. Like, he's hitting all the boxes in the right spot. He's doing what we want parents to do when they have missing children. It's just something wasn't right about him. I couldn't put my finger on it. There was no explanation for it. Just in my gut, something is just gnawing at me saying something's not right. So yesterday, I kind of gave, I guess, maybe a pass in part, because I was like, well, I feel like this deception I'm feeling coming from Daniel might be the fact that he was withholding, telling the world Malehya was detaching from her children long before they went missing. So I thought, that's a pretty critical element, and that would make a lot of people in the public look directly at Malehya, especially in light of her leaving the day after her children went missing and never returning back to the area. And I kept thinking, maybe in the back of my mind, that was the deception we were feeling, that he knew that he was withholding that, and that maybe that's what I was feeling as the deception aspect of it. And of course, I hadn't heard from the deception detective in a little while, so I went over to the deception detective. I think I've seen maybe a couple things a while ago, but I've been doing my own research and haven't really had time for, looking or watching other content from content creators. So I went over there and I saw his work on it, and I started watching it. And if you guys know anything, I very much value the deception detective's perspective and opinion. And he always, lets us know that this is just, there are going to be outliers in everything. So I expect him, that if this box fits in this square, right? It's not always going to be that. There's going to be a situation where everything fits perfectly, and it's going to be wildly different. And so I anticipate those things to happen with anybody that has any experience or speaks from experience or education. But it sounds like from the very beginning, the deception detective really hasn't jived very well with Daniel. He's flat out. I think literally from the very first, Malehya interview and Daniel interview, he's like, you know, he does it, you know, in his, you know, very monotone and very clinical way when he explains, you know, the deception. So I go back and I'm like, okay, you know, because I don't like taking other people's. That's why I don't really start looking into content creators when I'm first investigating a case, because I don't want anything, you know, swaying my analysis. And then when I start getting to a certain point, I start looking out at the experts on, you know, YouTube and other places, and looking up, you know, certain topics of discussion on Google and researching that, you know, psychological based stuff, you know, what is, for example, in the Decker girls, right, like PTSD symptoms, therapies and stuff like that. You know, you just kind of look up certain stuff. But not to get too far off base and off the track here, but he wasn't feeling it from them from the very beginning, and brought up some things, like I know that I feel some type of way, but I don't really have, like, I can't hone in on the specifics, you know, and then I'll go over to, like, the deception detective, and he'll say something, and it'll be like, you know, but he used past tense here, and while by itself really doesn't mean so, it's just something that we need to look at, and then he'll go on to the next thing, and something will spark, and it'll be like, maybe that's why I've never liked this. Maybe it's that reason right there, you know, because he really, I like how he hones in on it. Like, up until the deception detective, I've always explained everything like the best lie is built on a foundation of truth. And I never really understood, you know, that's just how I process it and how I explain it. But when you go over to the deception detective, you know, he's got a word for it, and it's called leakage, you know, and other, you know, things, when he starts explaining like hoax and stuff like that. So he fine tunes and starts helping at least help build our vocabulary when it comes to deception. But I really value his opinion, and he's not feeling it with Daniel or Malehya. Like, I wasn't feeling it with either or, but then it was like the more Daniel talked and the more Daniel was out there in the public, and maybe it was done by design that way for him, because, you know, I started, as I was listening to him, I started, you know, believing him more, because mom's absent. Again, it's psychological. So I'm just wondering, do they both know what happened? Both participated in what happened. Malehya got scared and tried to throw Daniel under the bus, and Daniel's just moving forward as planned. And that's why he's becoming more believable, because she's scared and hiding. The scared and hiding, again, we always talk about the fight and flight mechanism, but the fight or flight mechanism is really not engaged until you are fearful, until you have your met with the fight. It's when the fear is set on. Do you sit there and forge through the battle, or do you retreat from it? And we have a Malehya, a mom of 2 children, the only biological parent, by the way, missing in action. She took off on May 3rd. My understanding, it truly is what we heard as rumor, that they asked for Meadow to be removed from the property. but they never asked for Malehya to be removed from the property. So naturally, we would expect mom, she's got still a young toddler, that she'd have to go take that child and get situated. Yeah, for many of us, we have family, like if a grandma, say her mother was on the scene, they would be like, you need to be here for your children. Let me take Meadow back to the house. I'll get her situated, and as soon as I get her situated, I will be back here uh, to be with you. That's typically how other families handle it. They all pitch in, and when there's a need, they all try to help with that need. At this moment, when all of this stuff is breaking off, it sounds like the Royal Canadian Police wanted Meadow away from the property. But again, she was removed. Mom can come back. Where's mom? Mom's still missing in action. And now we're hearing from uh, Daniel about, you know her mental health is suffering. Her mental health. And I'm sorry that they have a child together, and I'm sorry that the mom is having a mental health break, but I don't want to hear about a grown adult's feelings or mental health when they have no clue where their children are that law enforcement believes is deceased. I could give two, what, about somebody's mental health at that moment, especially when they're hiding while everybody is out there searching. You guys know that this was the biggest problem the entire world had with the Sebastian Wayne Rogers case, and why all of our attention turned and started focusing on Chris and Katie Proudfoot, which was nowhere to be found. Let's see where we are. Yes, he knew that because she displayed that behavior. I would be looking at him. Maybe he's controlling, perhaps isolation. Well, Lisa, remember, and I said this just yesterday. Remember Reverend Donna Sephora. She is a psychic or medium. I realize I don't want to be disrespectful, and I know that each gift is how they like to be stated. So I don't know, and I don't mean to be disrespectful, but either way, if you know who she is, you'll know what she is, whether she's a psychic or a medium, or what her title would be. She said when she first started this case, she said there was a riddle that she couldn't really explain. She doesn't know what it means. She was hoping that maybe somebody close to this family or close to whatever may know what the riddle means. And it's a riddle that we've heard, a lot of our upbringing. I don't remember the specific words, but it's about, um, um, something, had a wife and couldn't keep her, put her in a pumpkin shell, and there you kept her very well. And again, she didn't know what that meant at the time, but I really do think that right there is taking shape, because the family, Malehya's family, was blaming Daniel. And if we really look at the history of this case, just bear with me and work with me through this process, because this is how I process information. This is how I get from point A to point B. So I'm kind of giving you a little bit of behind the eyeballs of Betty, right into Betty's brain. And the way I'm looking at this is, we have a Malehya that had two children. Okay, you see all those photos on her Facebook, which were right about the time before or right about the time that she would have started dating Daniel. About 2021, 2022. Okay, they've been together 3 years. They have a 16-month-old child together. So back then, you see children dressed like this, very much happy, cute, and you see Malehya in a lot of those photos. I mean, there was a substantial amount of photos of her two children, Jack and Lily. Then you don't know really what happens, but because we're not in their life, we just all kind of got into their life when their children disappeared. Otherwise, we would never be in their life. So we're trying to piece their life together. We're not friends with them. We can't just call them up and say, hey, do you remember this? What happened at this time? What happened at this time? And even if we could, a time and a place. You know, there's 2 missing children. Are we really going to call and give them a Spanish Inquisition when they have 2 missing children? Probably not. So now we're saddled with piecing this stuff together. So we go back. So we see a bunch of pretty pictures of all these kids without Daniel. So you know it's just them and the kids. We don't know if Cody was in these children's lives at the time, but it sounds like Belinda is very much wants to be involved in her grandchildren's lives. You can see that in the way she handled herself in the text messages with Malehya. But when I analyze those text messages and I review those text messages, I truly believe that they are very much manipulative. I go back and listen to this, and I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, you know, how would Malehya, and this is even before her interview with the news that we saw, the one interview we saw about how she was talking and she was making sure she explained every little detail of why she felt the way she felt. And I think that's bizarre to anybody. Now, for me personally, it's not really that bizarre because I speak like that. But then I have to remember what I do for work. She doesn't do what I do for work. I have a habit of over explaining some things, right? I mean, whenever I talking to somebody, I give them like the real, you know, like yeah, you're gonna have 3 screws there. You're gonna only remove 2 screws. You're going to want to crank it to the right or the left, you know, just like maybe a quarter of an inch. You'll want to adjust this. You want to turn the steering wheel all the way to the right. You're going to want to pop out the little things there. You're going to want to do this. You know, I'll over explain things, but that's kind of what I do. I over explain things so everybody gets a good understanding because in my world, I've got to make it sure that you guys can see it in your world. And I only have my words to be able to do it because sometimes we have videos and we got, you know, visual support and evidence or visual whatever. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes you feel like a nut. Sometimes you don't. Don't ask me where that came from. I don't know. I really don't. But the mother going to that property and when she got there, I'm hearing that I don't know when she got there, so I have nothing to support it with. I'm just hearing the rumors that there is some questionable timing there. That it sounds like she's an hour and a half away, and according to what the cousin said, that Daniel said, so it's kind of like, you know, it's not secondhand, it's not first hand or second hand, it's like third, fourth, or fifth hand information. But from what it sounds like is it sounds like the mom got there within a half an hour, clearly an hour sooner than she should have been there, so it's questionable. There are some red flags that can't be unnoticed. The kids were living in rural area. Abusers isolate their victims. Oh, and then that's getting back to that. So you see all those beautiful pictures. Thank you for that, Faye, because I was getting kind of off target or off script here. And I want to reel it back in, but I was trying to get to it. So you see the kids, you see the mom, they're all doing good. They look like they're living in a clean environment, have the birthday parties, have a great life, it appears. And then like on her Facebook, you just don't see a whole lot. And then we are learning that after she had Meadows, she completely detached from Jack and Lily. Guys, this really does support a more of a Leilani Simon type of situation. So then when we're coming back to, you know, full circle to what we were talking about before about, you know, believability of Daniel versus the mom, it's kind of like the mom's not here. So the more we hear Daniel, I think the more we're starting to personalize with him, the more we're starting to humanize with him, right? It's almost in part like a Stockholm syndrome, if you will, in part, maybe not a Stockholm syndrome. What's the one where maybe it is. I think Stockholm's where you idolize the abuser or whatever. And so I think we're all kind of looking at him and just thankful that he's still talking to us. And, it seems like he's really trying to find some answers for the kids, the facade and the manipulation. And that's one of the things that really bother me is because of the substance abuse. And I know how, especially certain substances, which I have seen in text messages from people saying that has been utilized and abused by these people, and I just know how manipulative people are when they have substance abuse issues. And you take that, you take the education or the experience from being manipulative for having substance abuse, and say something happened to children, you know how to kind of handle your business and you know how to lie well. I'm sorry, because people that have substance abuse lie all the time. They have to lie to get their substances. So they are master manipulators. They know how to be cunning and conniving, and they do it very, very, very well. And so I always thought that was it. And I even vocalized it and said, I think I have this bias because of the substance abuse factor of it, and I'm trying to keep it in check. And however you look at it, it just doesn't make sense. And so I always thought, when the family was blaming Daniel about it being his fault, he's the one responsible, I keep wondering if they were blaming him for Malehya's condition, that maybe because of his mental abuse, his isolation, all of these things, it put her in, it made her this different person. But I don't know, because after reviewing The Deception Detective, I'm just like, he thinks they both have some guilty knowledge. He thinks that they both have knowledge of where these children are. All I know is if the RCMP has not found these children in the woods, then what the parents are trying to convince us happened did not happen. Period. Because they have no problem finding lost people. I've looked it up. 3 days, no updates, time for big creators to start up. And that's another thing, Mike. Thanks for bringing that up, because I was going to bring that up myself. Is while I was looking at this, one of the things I do look, I look at social media, and most of our talking points truly do come from like Facebook or, an X post or something that somebody emails me, or, just something on those platforms. But I also check mainstream media to see what they've been talking about, to see if there might be any updates, say from the law enforcement out there, from one of the parents out there. Maybe they might have teachers or friends that they've interviewed. So I'll go over to mainstream media and do searches on them. And that's one thing I've noticed too, is that mainstream media is cooling off on this case in that area. It had been, I think the last article about Lilly and Jack was yesterday, but yesterday's article was really information from, like, how you have like the local news, they'll run an article, and then all of a sudden you'll have New York Post will run an article, and then MSNBC, then you'll have Yahoo picks up part of it, and then you'll have this thing pick up part of it. But the same information is reported by different companies, different news companies, but you'll see the same story written different ways, staggered out for 2 or 3 days, maybe 4 days, depending on what kind of news it is. And that was the situation. So even though we saw an article come out a day ago, it was actually based on information that had broke 3 days prior to that. So it really wasn't anything new. So coming back to what Mike was saying, 3 days, no updates, we really don't have anything. Even mainstream media hasn't really been running any articles or talking about any new perspectives in the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case. I do believe that they're out there somewhere, and I think they're closer to home than people might think. I'm not on the bandwagon, never have been on the bandwagon that they've been abducted. Could it have been a possibility? We've talked about it, and we have looked at it as a possibility, so that no stone went unturned. But in light of it doesn't appear to be a possibility, and it is supported by the RCMP not believing it's a possibility. We kind of remove that factor out, but we keep it there just in case new information is available that might lead us to, or lead more information to maybe support that theory. So right now, the theory is that they wandered off or foul play, but it's looking more like foul play because we're over a month in, and if they just wandered off, even if they're deceased, okay, even if they're deceased, they're dead, okay, they were walking, they got hung up, they got stuck out there, no food, no water, they expired, they're going to expire above ground, wherever they're at, they would be found. They're not being found. So now we're kind of really going down the avenue of foul play. What does foul play look like? Well, who was around them? We know they were not around anybody else but their mom and stepdad. The only other time that they were around any potential third party was when they went to New Glasgow on May 1st. According to law enforcement, it doesn't seem, because I would have to assume if anybody was seen trailing them or following them, they wouldn't have initiated more searching out into the woods, which they did after learning and reviewing the footage of them being in New Glasgow on May 1st. So again, that brings it right back to home and supports the deception detectives' assessment that it's most likely both parents are deceptive and both parents know more about where Lily and Jack are. It would be like the Mounties to tell her not to talk. They'll report absolutely nothing until they are good and ready. Freedom of information is not as accessible as in the States. That's what I've learned. Lala, and I've explained that to my audience too, that this has been quite the challenge to do the research on this case because I go to court records, they're readily available here in the States in many of the cases, because in 2025 a lot of our courts are online, and a lot of our courts are online not because they want to be, because it's just a lot easier for them. It's taking a lot of work away from their clerks, stuff that they used to have to manually scan in and upload. They can now have directly uploaded right from the person, leaving that whole step out, freeing up the clerk's times to do other more other work. Mike says, sleep well on it if you can. Always good to take a step back and take another fresh look at things. Absolutely. I'm surprised I'm up this thing. I'm surprised I'm up at 2 o'clock in the morning. But this is kind of the way it was with the Sebastian Rogers case too when we got into it. In my opinion, she's either hiding them or, listen, when you get to this point where you've got, no offense, thank you for your comment, Town. But no offense, I don't see anybody going through all this. The same argument is true in this case as it is in the Sebastian Rogers case, and why I believe Sebastian is deceased. Many people, you guys give people credit. Nobody's going through all of this to hide children from law enforcement. Law enforcement could care less whether you have your children. There's no signs of abuse. They were not in any danger of being taken from them. So why are they creating a situation that would? It makes absolutely no sense. The only possibility for these kids is that they're deceased. So I don't think she's hiding them because of just that alone. It doesn't make sense. But anyway, sorry. Sorry, Town. She's like, I'm never commenting again. No, I'm just joking. Thank you for commenting, though. Let me finish your comment, though. In my opinion, she is either hiding them for some reason, or they really get abducted. Possibly that man recently was arrested that lives on Mosher that grabbed the child on the bike. Yeah. What did they arrest the guy for on Mosher? I'm curious about that. And then we'll get over to the text messages. Inside, and the child escaped, and the man was arrested. Where did the child come from? Was that child ever reported missing? Woke up and my favorite channel was Virginia Girl, yeah. I love how the officers want information on the bio dad right away from mom. Yeah, and he probably has absolutely nothing to do with it. But they always do that. I think that truly Chris and Katie convinced law enforcement Seth was involved and his son, and I think that's why they were so hard on Seth at the beginning. And when they started realizing, wait a minute, he's not responsible. I still think they had law enforcement so twisted, law enforcement didn't even think to look at Chris and Katie until much later. And I think that was a poor decision. Buddy manipulation is what I get every time Daniel's. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. And then we're learning more about him. I just don't trust him. I just don't. But I don't trust anybody that has missing children. I just don't. I trust nothing that comes out of their mouth until something starts leading that they had nothing to do with it. That's just how I am. I called the school at 6 a.m. to let them know. I know it seems so set up for somebody to be laying in bed all day. Like she says that they were homesick. So she calls at 6 o'clock. We never heard that she went and looked in on the kids at 6 o'clock in the morning. We never heard not one time she went to go look in on the kids at 6 o'clock in the morning. So that's more, in my opinion, weird information, because at 6 o'clock in the morning, you would think that she would have seen them in their bed. Not one time did she say, well, when I went in there to check on, to get them up, before I called them into school, that was the last time I saw them, and they were both in bed sick. She never said that. We never even knew that she called the school that morning. Our CMP are top-notch searchers. As someone who stayed with an abusive POS way longer than I should have, however, it was my choice to stay until I had enough. Even though it almost cost me my life, no one could tell me to leave. That's true. But I really think that she it seems like from what Daniel is leaking, but you know what? If Daniel's leaking it though, we can't put it past Daniel, because parts of us, let's just be honest with you, parts of us believe that Malehya is acting this way to throw Daniel under the bus. What if Daniel's leaking this information to eventually throw Malehya under the bus? What if what if we're looking at this completely different? I don't know. Okay, so let's get on, Betty, on the Wednesday when the school was, 2 men in the area tried to take 2 children out of the yard. Where did you hear that information? Can you send that to my email if you can locate it? I don't know if you can. Sometimes we read stuff and then we forget where we saw it at, or whatever. But if you do remember where you read it or saw that, can you please send that to me over at bullhornbetty@gmail.com? Oh, I just realized we have an endangered missing person out of Manatee County. I was just going in here so I could read some stuff to you. And it's Ryan Shaw O'Brien, 33-year-old, was last seen driving away from the 3000 block of 58 Terrace East in Bradenton around 3 p.m. yesterday in a white Dodge Durango. He's Florida military. After stating that he intended, he's told people he intends to self-harm. 6 foot tall, 175 pounds. I don't know how many people I've got in here from Florida or from Manatee County, but That's what he looks like. If you guys have seen him or the white Durango, please call the Manatee County Sheriff 941-747-3011. All right, so let me get to my messenger here. So let's read these. They're in order. It's going to be a little hard. Bear with me because they weren't in the best quality, and then I had to try to clean them up. And so when you kind of clean them up a little bit, it never looks right. It almost looks like you're drawing stuff in. See, I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's all smudged and stuff. It's crystal clear, but it's smudged a little bit because it took a very unclear text and it tried to clean it up, so it made the text off. The texts are fake. That's not true, Phoebe. That's what I was trying to tell. Belinda actually wrote in Facebook, and Belinda is the grandmother, and she said that these are her texts. So they are her text. So what they say is, it says, have you heard anything yet? So this is Belinda to Malehya. So Belinda asked, have you heard anything yet? Where they're going to school? Please keep me updated. And Malehya writes back and said, no, I was keeping them home today because they were sick with a cold, and they got outside the back door and we can't hear the door, and they got outside. That is the first, that right there, that whole statement. No, I was keeping them home today because they were sick with a cold, and they got outside the back door and we can't hear that door, and they got outside. That right there does not make sense. Malehya, it was all over Facebook this morning. I don't know who you are. See, this is what I have a problem with, Phoebe, is I don't know who you are, and you come in here and say things are fake. And I have a conversation here with Belinda in it that says that they are her texts. So, and Belinda's on Facebook, so you can clearly see it's her that's saying it's her. And that's all over Facebook. So I'll keep reading it. Thank you. And it says, they like exploring the woods and playing in the woods under supervision. Under our supervision. So this, all Belinda asked her for is, have you heard anything yet? Were they going to school? Please keep me updated. That's all she asked. And Malehya is giving her a dissertation. She's trying to over-explain everything out the gate. This right here is not a good sign for me. Okay? This is not a good sign for me. This tells me that she was already starting to set the narrative. Just on those two posts that she wrote in response to Belinda's question, it is already starting, in my opinion, to drive that narrative. Okay, BHB, I went ahead and emailed you the link. Okay, hold on 1 second. Okay. Let me make sure I got this one. Did you email it to bullhornbetty@gmail.com? Otherwise, I don't know some coming in, unless you're PT. If you're PT, then I've got it. But I just wanted to make sure I got it. Okay, so let's get on to the next round. So they say she's already telling them, she's already explaining that they would be willing to walk out and that they go wandering in the woods. Under their supervision, of course. And then just hits off, I just can't believe this is actually happening right now. I never thought they would run off on me like that. So, this right here, to me, is very manipulative. I don't know how you guys read that, but that, all Belinda asked for was an update, and she's going into her explanation. Her explanation. Let's read that again. No, I kept them home today because so the only question is have you heard anything? Were they going to school? Please keep me updated. Now she's trying to be updated on the location of the kids. Not this. And she's saying we kept them home because of a cold, but we can't hear the back door. They got out the back door and they went outside. And they love playing in the woods, and I can't believe this is happening to me right now. I never thought they would run off. I'm so distraught. You must be worried, sick. Let me know anything at any time. I will, yes. She says, I will, yes. I am. Don't know what to do. Are the neighbors close by? She says, no, not too close. We live on Garlock. I heard they're all bringing in others. And I can't read this because it got others in other teams. Oh, in other teams to search. I think around the home. It got blurry there when I tried to clear it up. I hope so too. They've been missing since, she says they've been missing since 10:40 that morning. 10:40. They like to wander a lot. Very manipulative language. Okay, I just sent it again. Okay, hold on just a second. Let me see. Manipulative language again about wandering. They've never had to call the police on their children not being okay. I got it. Here we go. All right, so here is the man that got arrested for SA crimes on a child. This happened. This article's from June 1st. I guess we'll find out. So it would have. It said yesterday at approximately 3. So on June 2nd. On June 2nd. So about 6 days ago. And this is in Admiral Rock, Nova Scotia. East Hants District RCMP has charged a man with SA against a child that occurred in Admiral Rock. Yesterday at approximately 3:20 p.m., RCMP officers responded to reports of an abduction on Mosier Road. Officers learned 2 children were riding their bicycles when a man standing at the end of the driveway flagged them down. The man, whom the children did not know, grabbed one of them by the arm, entered the nearby residence with the child, exposed himself, and uttered threats. The child screamed and ran out of the home to get help. The 2 children were not physically injured. RCMP officers attended the residence where the incident occurred and arrested a 34-year-old man from Admiral Rock. Gregory McDonald has been charged with kidnapping, invitation of touching, indecent act, exposure, assault, uttering threats. The investigation is ongoing. That's a little worrisome. How close is that to where Lilly and Jack's situation is? It is disgusting. You're right about that, Donna. How far away is it? I guess Admiral Rock. Oh, let me see. Rock. Nova Scotia. Let's get directions to Lansdowne Station, Nova Scotia. I don't know. That's pretty far away from one another. That's well over an hour away. So if Lilly and Jack dressed themselves and went out on Friday morning for the bus, he could have been driving around grabbing them allegedly. I mean, it's possible, but it's telling me that Lansdowne Station is over an hour away from Admiral Rock. Yeah, it's quite a bit of ways. I mean, an hour away. That's like if I don't know where you're from, but here in Florida, if you know Florida map, it's about the distance. I guess you guys wouldn't know where either one of those are. I was going to say the distance from like Fort Myers to Sarasota or, St. Petersburg, Tampa to say Manatee County, but you guys don't know that. Yeah. I thought it was 1 mile. So yeah, maybe an hour. I say, yeah, it definitely is a problem, but I don't think it was a problem that was close enough that would affect the Lilly and Jack case. I mean, it is possible people migrate, but that's a long way to drive not to know. I mean, out in the middle of nowhere, not to know if you're gonna, if there's gonna even be a child out there because they're so desolate. I mean, you would think it'd be something that would be scoped out or something like that. It seems like in this area, they would know if somebody was scoping out because it sounds like there's only one way in and one way out. So if with cameras from businesses going onto that road, I guess that's a possibility. One time they said 8 a.m. was the last time the kids were seen, and a text 9:40 a.m. Yeah. The story doesn't make sense. They're inconsistent on their statements. We're already starting to see the things that we do not want to see. In this case, already from the mother. So it says, you want to demand more searches, and they said we have big searches right now, and more are coming. I also want info about Cody because he doesn't see them. They also want information about Cody because he doesn't see them. The police do. She says, we have drones, dogs, helicopters. That's not a problem. She says they can call her. She's happy to talk to law enforcement, anything that she can do to help. Sounds like a typical grandma. Whatever you need from me, I'm here. I'm happy to help. And then she goes into like, have you heard anything yet? Are the locals allowed to search? Did they have coats or boots? Do you know? And she says, no, yet they have boots, and Lily has her white backpack on with strawberries, and she should be in pink, and Jack dark colored clothes, and Jack has dino boots, and Lily has pink boots. This is so scripted. That's almost exactly verbatim, exactly how Daniel described them that day. Parents that didn't see their kids. I don't know. I think it's weird. And they found one boot under the, couch. They found a pink boot under the couch, and I truly believe that's one of the pink boots that they said Lily left in. But I don't know. Just my belief. So, very, 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 very manipulative. text messages. They're already driving a narrative. As soon as I read these for myself, that's when I'm starting to come to the realization that they are showing very, very problematic signs very, very early on. And if Belinda had not shown the conversation, because she was upset, and I remember she was being attacked on her page, and she's like, look guys, I was just telling you what they were telling me. And I remember reading that because I did a live because of how Belinda was being treated, and I'm like, guys, you can't treat her, she's a grandma. These are, she's walking into this too, whether you guys like the fact that her son was involved in their life or not, it doesn't matter. She wanted to be, and her grandkids were ripped from her like a year and a half ago. And she's reaching out to Malehya, and Maleya's blowing stuff, so she's telling people what she's been told's going on, and people are harassing her. She's like, look, that's what I was being told. And so I think she produced those receipts to prove that that's what she was being told. So, I don't know. That's just what I'm assuming is going on here. Because I'm pretty sure there's probably a lot more messages than that. But those are just the messages of that day, which support what Belinda was told that day, which again is what she was being attacked on her personal Facebook page. Hey JH, aloha. I heard officers say to dispatch, said mother was here, found a piece of red material on the road with other parts of girl's blanket. If true, wonder if it got hung up on the car door. We would have heard about that early on, no? That seems like something that we would have heard about like on May 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Why are we just hearing about it like a month later? That sounds like a troll. Might not be, it just sounds like a troll. So, oh, that's okay. My spelling's, how can you type on these little phones anyways? You should talk to my mods. I tell them to read between the lines. If they can if they can get a gist of what I say, that's what I meant. And I'm horrible because I'll do talk to text, and talk to text sucks. It gives you no punctuations at all. And I remember I was responding to somebody like, don't you know how to do punctuations? I'm like, I'm gonna talk to text, and na boo boo. I know, Ida, me too. I couldn't go to sleep, so I'm like, screw it. If I can't go to sleep, I might as well talk to somebody. Delilah doesn't want to talk to me. Delilah has no problem sleeping. I'm the one that has a problem sleeping. She's snoring next to me with my big loud mouth. She's out. She has no problem sleeping. I'm the one having problems sleeping tonight as I eat sugar. I don't know why I have a problem sleeping tonight. Haven't figured it out, not at all. Alright guys, that's all I got for you. Maybe I need to go put my butt back to bed. That's maybe. Alright guys, just to let you know, I'll be rocking it out. Tomorrow after church, we're going to be talking about Sebastian's case. We'll be back. We'll be going over to the other channel after we're done with Sebastian's case, getting an update on the Decker case, and then we'll be back to end tomorrow with a full update on where we are in the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case. So you guys will get me for 3 shows tomorrow. One for we'll have Church, Sebastian, Decker, and then Sullivan. So that'll be our schedule for tomorrow. I hope you guys, it was on the Plunder tape she got. Okay, I'll go to Plunder's and check it out then, Mike. Thanks for letting me know. I did see something that Plunder had, and I was going to watch because I love Plunder. I like her work. And I just didn't have time to watch it. So I'll try to watch it tomorrow before church. I know you're not doing lives about them on this channel, but there's currently Ellie flying over my house looking for Travis. Wow. I think he's deceased. I don't know why. Usually I don't have this strong of a feeling, but there's just something in my gut. Like, I just don't believe Whitney's this off base about her husband. You know, not only was she married with him and lived with him, she had 3 kids. I mean, yeah, he had mental illness, but she knows. I mean, I'm sorry, you know your husband. You can't tell me after a decade with a man you don't know him. And law enforcement's describing this premeditative, you know, evil man, and she's describing a broken, mentally ill guy, you know. And so I'm trying to balance, and I have to think that, you know, that's the problem with law enforcement. They think they know everything, but, you know, in situations like this, I'm going to default. The only thing that's giving me some hesitation is I know that Whitney has to not be in her right mind. Could she be misanalyzing this and giving credit to her husband to find an excuse for all this so she doesn't have to think that he is, you know, I don't know. You know, I really don't. I don't know. But I have to trust the family member, because that, to me, I think they know the person better than, say, law enforcement. So I wonder what size handprint was. The handprint was an adult. Most likely Travis, according to the sheriff. I wonder if both can be true at the same time. He's mentally broken. I guess it's possible, Casey, but I'm looking at photos. Let me see if I can pull these up. I'm looking at photos of him. This is not a man. I have to analyze every aspect of this to try to understand. And so, you know, we have a guy. Let me just get my big old head out of here, and I'll just show you some photos. This is a man that loved his children. There's something more going on here, right? There's just something more going on here. So, does mental illness make you do some pretty rotten stuff? Yeah, it does. But you can see this man loved his kids. At some point, whatever he was in when he hurt his children, whatever state of mind he was in, he's going to snap out of it at some point. And when he does snap out of this, he's going to realize he took his world away from himself. And I truly believe that that's what's going to push him over the edge. This is not a man that, to me, wanted to punish his wife. You know, this is a man that his wife is saying broke. I think law enforcement has it wrong. You know, law enforcement gets it wrong sometimes. A close family friend knows their family. She says they were the family everyone was envious of. Right. And so I really, truly believe he's out there. At some point, this PTSD or whatever broke in him subsided, whether it was a PTSD or a personality episode or something. At some point, that whatever episode's going to subside, and he's going to be back, and he's going to know consciously that he just took his world away from himself. I don't see him living with himself after that. But the man law enforcement is describing is not the man that Whitney is describing. So I'm trying to bounce around with that. You know, I'm trying to be cautious because I want people to be safe, and I want them to be vigilant, and I want them to look for Travis. But in the back of my mind, in my heart, in the pit of my stomach, I just feel like he's gone. I feel like he went shortly after his girls went. I really do. Especially after I found out the dog was left behind, um, uninjured. That that's nothing. Well, it's okay. They're outside. You're inside. She just wanted to say hi to everybody. What my gut has been telling me is with his back child support, no housing, way to support the girl, no job. It got to be too much, and he broke. And I'm hearing that his employer said he seemed to be on the edge. So I think we're looking at a I think we're looking at a recovery mission for him. As horrible as that is, now that I got a little insight into this family and got to know everybody, I mean, it's a depressing situation all the way around. It's a depressing situation that should not be. That's the worst part about it. This should not be. This family should not be on our show. None of these families should ever be on our show, but this family definitely should not be on our show. It just seems like um, proper VA mental health would have stopped a lot of this. But the other part, and I know the family is not blaming, I want to repeat that. Whitney is not blaming the courts for this situation, but I'm not as dismissive. I truly believe that not only did the courts dismiss his spiraling and not taking into account um, his behavior, but also law enforcement when he failed to return the kids, and Whitney wanted a Amber Alert. That was another failure. So I know that she is very appreciative of law enforcement and the courts, because she was in a pickle. She really didn't want them. She didn't want him losing his contact with his children. That was very important to her, and so the courts as well as her were trying to balance that for the betterment, for everybody involved. So I think that's why she doesn't blame the court system. But I really truly believe uh, he should have had supervised visits in light of the fact that he the family was concerned. Whatever was going on inside of him is heartbreaking. Yeah. Wenatchee has created a rock garden for the girl. Oh, that's beautiful. People are painting rocks and leaving them. Kylan Schulte loved painting rocks. I didn't know that until I met upon Sean Paul Schulte, her father. And he showed us a lot of stuff. It was very endearing. His story is sad. Some of these parents, I don't know where they get the strength, because another one that lost two children, his son was accidentally pew-pewed by his best friend when he was 14 or 15. And a few years later, his daughter was murdered. So she may have been advised by lawyers not to speak. Violence in any case, he does something to have someone else. I don't know. A man unalived my children. I don't know if there's a whole lot of good things I could say about somebody like that. So for her to say something like that and come to bat for him so publicly, I have to believe I have to trust her. She's lost so much. I don't see why she would deceive intentionally or unintentionally. Not that she's out here trying to deceive us, but sometimes perceptions can be deceiving. If you want to leave the family a message, there is a Google Doc on. Oh, okay. Thank you, Casey. If you don't mind, maybe you can send that to me so tomorrow when we do our live for the Decker sisters, I'll have that available to showcase on the show. If you can send that to bullhornbetty@gmail.com, I'd greatly appreciate that. We'll also be running their GoFundMe as well. So, all right, guys, that's all we have time for this early in the morning. Hopefully, I'll be awake by church. I don't know. My time is off tonight, and I don't know why. So we'll see you soon. But at least you guys kept me company while I tried to wind down on sugar. I pray deceptive detective and you crazy psychic. Did I never go through a tragedy and get blamed if you're innocent? I'm hoping so. I'm just being cautious with it because I am a fish out of water with Canada. So I'm just making sure I understand. And, I'm getting to this point where I'm really starting to believe Daniel. And, now I'm starting to look at my the people that do the behaviors and the analysis and all the other stuff. That have covered this case, and Deception Detective came up, so I went back and started looking at his videos, and it's like, wow, because I was at the beginning of this, I was kind of feeling really uneasy even with Daniel, but I was kind of second guessing myself. But now I kind of, at least it solidifies that I'm not off when it comes to Daniel. I don't have to beat myself up. It sounds like he's on the same page, where he feels that there's deception there, that Daniel knows more than he's saying. So I'm going to keep pushing that way forward. If new information comes available and becomes available, we'll definitely adjust our theories and get those facts out to you so you guys can adjust your theories. But right now, I'm really starting to think that Daniel might be covering for Malehya. I don't know. Malehya seems to be the one that's detaching. Malehya seems to be the one that initiated the conversation about the kids not being in the house. Malehya's the one that ran off from the home. Malehya's the one that's speaking to the family members, really running and trying to energize this narrative of them walking off or being abducted. She threw out both theories in that little tiny window of conversation with Belinda, that they wandered off and they were abducted. So that tells me she's just trying to throw anything out there that deflects from them being responsible. So I just saw a lot of red flags in that conversation she had in Belinda, and it does not make me feel any way better. It actually makes me feel worse, and it makes me feel like, the audience looking at them very, very, very quickly. We knew that was going to be most likely the possibility. I think this is kind of that pivot where we're going to be starting to really start focusing in on both the mom and the stepfather, because there's not really a whole lot of other possibilities at this point that would make sense. So that's kind of where we're starting to go. Hey, Meow, it's nice to see you, Love Bug. I hope you're doing well. Whispering Winds. So I'm glad I got to catch you under duress. Perhaps. All right, guys. We will see you tomorrow at some point. We already have 3 shows scheduled. We'll be starting out and kicking off after church. Our first show will be about Sebastian Wayne Drake Rogers, giving us updates. Then we'll be over on the Crime Stories channel for an update on the Decker case, and then we'll be back here on the Bullhorn Betty to finish out the day with a full update on the Lilly and Jack Sullivan case. So that will be our tomorrow's schedule. If you guys are up for it, make sure you're signed up for the Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. Otherwise, you will not be able to communicate with the coffee club as we talk about the Decker sisters. So we'll see you soon tomorrow. Bring your positivity and your thinking cap. We're going to dive in. I will be on the computer all day, so we'll have access to immediate information. So I'll have 2 screens going tomorrow. So if we need to stop and research something, we'll have time to stop and research. I'm not rushing tomorrow or having a time for the shows or anything. We're going to talk about the topic of conversation until that topic of conversation ends, and we're going to have 3 shows like that. One specifically for Sebastian, one specifically for the Decker case, and one specifically for the Sullivan case behind me, as well as doing some lovely little videos about each of these cases as well that will be on TikTok. So don't forget to hit me up on TikTok as well. Lorraine Law, it's nice to see you, love bug. B, Betty fan, big hugs and kisses. And we will see you. I would say we'll see you tomorrow, but it already is tomorrow. So we'll see you later today. God bless.